It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of August 27th, 2004. We got 4 movies to look at today. Only one of them is actually good, so let's go ahead and get to that film, and that is the biggest new release of the weekend, Zhang Yimou's Hero with Jet Li. Only the second most popular Chinese wuxia film after Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This came out, it was actually made 2 years after that and released in China in 2002, but went to America about 2 years afterwards after Miramax grabbed the rights to it, and Quentin Tarantino eventually convinced the studio to open the film. And they should be happy that they did, because the film was a very big success. It was actually the first Chinese-language movie to top the American box office, and it stayed that way for 2 consecutive weeks. But then again, when you open on the weekend before Labor Day, not really much is going to compete with that. But in this film, you have the story here is that you have Jet Li in this movie as one man who single-handedly ensured the safety of the king by killing 3 of the most notorious assassins in the land of ancient China and the Qin Empire, who's out to conquer the 6 kingdoms. And essentially that makes the king the target for assassination. He's treated as a hero and is shown with an audience with this king, and it has some really good, gorgeous cinematography. This director would later go on to do House of Flying Daggers in the same year, and then they would do The Great Wall, which completely different styles of quality there, really. But here was a fantastic movie. So, like I said, the visuals are amazing to look at. The cinematography is top notch. When the action sequences take place, you feel the epicness and weight to the storyline. You have a great cast that includes Lee. You also have Zhang Ji from Memoirs of a Geisha, Donnie Yen, Tony Ling Chua from Shang-Chi, who you've seen Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings later. It's just a really good movie, man. A film that just really is massive to look at. It's a grand Chinese epic. I would say it's even more enjoyable than something like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Now, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is a great movie and has a lot of great visual style to it. It revolutionized the way people look at Chinese movies in general. But this film, I think, really took that to the next level. And it's one that I don't think gets as much attention as something like Crouching Tiger does. It has shots that are so memorable. Like the shots with all the arrows and the guy's looking up at the air and he sees all the arrows up there. Just a lot of really good shots in this movie in general. It's a really good film. Really, there's not much more I can add to it, per se. It's a film that I think is really, really good. Can't recommend it enough. It's easily the best thing to come out this weekend. Because what comes up after that? How about a pointless sequel? How about Anaconda's The Hunt for the Blood Orchid? This is a sequel, of course, to Anaconda, but it's a standalone sequel, so nobody from the last movie is coming back for this sucker. Jennifer Lopez, Ice Cube, Owen Wilson, Jon Voight, they're all too good for this. Well, except for Jon Voight, which we'll get to a little bit later on in this episode, because he's in another terrible sequel by Sony Pictures this weekend. But in this movie, you have a team of researchers setting out on an expedition into the southeastern Asian tropical islands of Borneo to search for a sacred flower which they believe will bring humans to a longer and healthier life. They soon become stalked and hunted by the deadly giant anacondas inhabiting the island. And not as many notable names in this one, but names you'll probably be familiar with: Morris Chestnut, Katie Strickland, Sally Richardson. That's about it. I mean, like I said, the movie doesn't even know if it wants to be a straight-up horror movie or a comedy with how badly that trailer was put together. And again, people bought into it. Maybe it wasn't as successful as the original Anaconda, but it still made almost over 3 times its budget. Even then, it looks so cheap. It looks so stupid. It looks so ridiculous. It was such a terribly put together movie. The first one was at least so terrible it was good. Like, there was a lot of fun, ridiculous, over-the-top elements in that first movie. In this movie, there's none of that. There is none of that whatsoever. It's just a cheap, lousy, put-together movie that really has no effort to it whatsoever. And it's just did not like indeed. But like I said, it's definitely better than the other sequel that we'll get to just as soon as we get to our next movie, and that is Suspect Zero. No, Ben Kingsley, we're not scared of you. In fact, the next movie after this is much scarier than anything you do in this movie. But you were one of the best things about this notoriously bad film. The story is that you have the hunt for Suspect Zero, a potential serial killer who is able to kill indefinitely because he is able to remain undetectable by law enforcement agencies. And it features various elements from declassified DIA Stargate remote viewing protocols. And yeah, this is a pretty lousy movie. I mean, this is a film that is pretty much straightforward, a generic ass political thriller, not psychological thriller, political thriller, but not the case with this film here. Aaron Eckhart and Carrie-Anne Moss are also in the film as well, but the film really doesn't feel like a movie that really is. It doesn't have a point to it. Like, some ideas I think could work. There's a good idea with this idea that you have a killer that basically cannot be stopped and finds ways to get away. Like, that could make for an interesting movie, but not in a movie like this, especially when it's been sitting on a shelf at Paramount for nearly 2 years. That should have been the red flag right from the get-go, and it's just not engaging whatsoever. It's very lackluster, it's boring, the mystery is not that interesting whatsoever. The only person that really is carrying the load here is Ben Kingsley, and like I said, it's not a movie that really is, it's not a movie that really is all that worth it. But fun fact about this movie: this was actually based off of a first draft by Zach Penn, who, I kid you not, allegedly impressed Steven Spielberg so much in his depictions of serial killers elongating middle fingers that he went home and checked his child's hands. That's how this movie got made, and it was eventually sold to Universal. And then Tom Cruise came on board to produce it. This was all the way back in '97, by the way. And then they had all these different people involved in it. Sylvester Stallone was in at one point. Ben Affleck was going to rewrite the script, but he left the project. The guy who did The Art of War was originally attached to direct it, but he dropped down. If your movie's not good enough to have the director of The Art of War, then you really, really have a problem here. And yeah, not a very good movie. Bottom line. So, but hey, let's be honest. Any movie that I have shown you this week is much better than the atrocity that we're about to show you here, which is Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2. This exists, people. Where do you even begin? Want to start with the lame jokes? Want to start with the bad CG? Want to start with the fact that this was directed by the guy that gave us two of the greatest comedies of the 1980s, Porky's and A Christmas Story. The fact that it's directed by I just said that it stars Jon Voight in a movie where he's literally Hitler. They'll come out and say it, but he's literally a caricature of Adolf Hitler. Start with the fact that somehow Nick Jr. got involved in this. They saw this and said, "We got to put our name to this puppy." But just the thought of this movie just really just hurts my head to think about it. This is, of course, the sequel to Baby Geniuses, because apparently it was popular enough to warrant a sequel 5 years later, at a time when nobody really gave a shit about the original Baby Geniuses. But following the events of the first film, 4 babies can communicate with each other using baby talk and have knowledge of many secrets. The Baby Geniuses become involved in a scheme by media mogul Bill Biscayne, later revealed to be known as Kane, played by Jon Voight, who kidnaps children everywhere. Helping the geniuses is legendary super baby named Kahuna, who stops Biscayne's plots and saves children from being kidnapped by Biscayne and his minions. He joins up with several other babies in an attempt to stop Biscayne, who intends to use a state-of-the-art satellite system to control the world's population by brainwashing them and forcing people to not be active and watch TV for the rest of their lives. I couldn't even get through that. My brain is just scrambling just by reading that synopsis. But it's okay though. I mean, who else is the biggest star in this movie besides Jon Voight? Scott Baio, Vanessa Angel, that dude from Dragon Ball Evolution. God, this is bad. This is really, really bad. I mean, this was when Bob Clark was taking all that reputation he had in the 70s and 80s and just crashing it down. What's a better example? Imagine that this football right here is Bob Clark at the peak of his career and everything that he had done beforehand. This was him at this point later on in life. Is that enough for you? Is that enough for you guys? I honestly could have used this as an example, but this is much heavier and will make a lot more noise, and it's like 1:30 in the morning as I'm recording this, but you get the point. I don't even need to tell you anything more about this movie, except the fact that it's a terrible movie, it has poor CG effects, it has really bad comedy, it has people that should know much better than to star in a movie like this. It's a movie that nobody gave a crap about. It's been known as one of the worst movies of all time, panned by critics, panned by audiences. This thing didn't even make back its $20 million budget. This is what a $20 million budgeted movie looks like. And it couldn't even do that. It couldn't even make back half that money. It's a bad movie. It's a really bad movie. And yet, they still made 3 more of these for direct-to-video. You're not the Land... Forget about being the Rugrats. You're not the Land Before Time. You're not Scooby-Doo. You're not Tom and Jerry. You're not this franchise that people love so much that that you have to keep making sequels. Nobody gave a crap about this after the first movie. This is... Do I have to say any more? Do I really need to say any more? Just... It's Super Babies, Baby Geniuses 2. What more did you expect from it? Well, that was certainly a fun way to end this episode of Time About the Movies. We got another week of lackluster movies coming up for next weekend, because it is Labor Day weekend. We've got the Mel Gibson-produced Paparazzi. We have yet another comedy that's trying to be the next trying to be the movie that Soul Plane couldn't be. The Cookout. I don't think it even wanted to, but we have The Cookout, which features Queen Latifah. We have Wicker Park with Josh Hartnett and Rose Byrne, and also Mira Nair's Vanity Fair with Reese Witherspoon. So, certainly hope that some of these movies might be better than the ones we've had this week, except of course for Hero. But I'm not putting any money on that. We'll just have to wait to see what happens on tomorrow's show. But until then, thank you so much for watching and powering through with me. If you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And also, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So, with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care. Thanks for watching.